What happens when you completely disappear from someone's life? Will they forget you, or will you haunt their thoughts forever? Today, we're diving into a gripping tale about the mysterious power of going no contact. If you've ever wondered what really happens when someone you love is suddenly gone, stay with us to the end. Don't forget to follow this channel for more thrilling stories and insights into the human mind. It began on a cold, quiet night in October. The wind howled through the trees, and the moon cast long shadows on the ground. Ethan sat in his car outside a small coffee shop, staring at his phone. His thumb hovered over the block button on her contact. It had been weeks since he'd last spoken to Claire, but the memories of her lingered like a shadow he couldn't shake. Claire was the kind of person who could light up a room without even trying. She had this effortless charm, a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world. But things had gotten complicated. Their relationship, once filled with laughter and endless conversations, had turned into a series of misunderstandings and unspoken resentment. Ethan had read somewhere that going no contact was the best way to heal, to let someone see your value by disappearing completely. It sounded simple, almost too simple. But now, sitting in his car with trembling hands, he realized how hard it was to take that first step. With one deep breath, he pressed the button. Her name vanished from his screen, and with it, the last thread connecting them. He expected to feel relief, maybe even a sense of power. Instead, he felt a hollow ache, as if a part of him had been ripped away. For the first week, Ethan avoided checking his phone obsessively. He told himself it didn't matter whether she noticed his absence. This was about him reclaiming his life. But every quiet moment was filled with questions. Was she thinking about him? Did she miss him? Or worse, had she already forgotten him? Claire, on the other hand, noticed Ethan's silence almost immediately. At first, she brushed it off as him needing space, something he'd done before. But as days turned into weeks, the absence of his name on her phone became a weight she couldn't ignore. She scrolled through old photos of them together, her heart tightening with each memory. The time they went to the lake, and he convinced her to try kayaking despite her fear of water. The late-night drives where they talked about their dreams, their fears, their future. It was all still there, frozen in time, but he wasn't. One evening, Claire found herself sitting in her living room, staring at the last message he'd sent her. "Take care of yourself," it read. It seemed so final now, though at the time, she hadn't realized its significance. She wanted to reach out, to ask him why he had disappeared, but something held her back. Pride? Fear? Or maybe the deep, unsettling knowledge that he wouldn't reply. Meanwhile, Ethan was struggling to stick to his decision. He had underestimated how much Claire had become a part of his daily life. The songs they used to listen to together played randomly on the radio, each note tugging at his heart. The coffee shop they used to visit felt empty without her laughter echoing in its walls. Ethan found himself replaying their last conversation in his mind, searching for clues. Had she given up on them before he had? Was she relieved that he was gone? Or was she, like him, caught in this invisible tug-of-war between holding on and letting go? By the second month, things took an unexpected turn. Ethan started noticing small signs that Claire might not have forgotten him. A mutual friend mentioned her asking about him casually, though the friend insisted it was nothing significant. Another time, Ethan thought he saw her car parked outside a bookstore they used to visit. He told himself it was coincidence, but deep down, he hoped it wasn't. Claire, on the other hand, was struggling with her own battle. She had tried to fill the void Ethan had left with work, hobbies, even meeting new people. But nothing felt right. Every new experience felt like a reminder of what she had lost. One night, unable to sleep, Claire sat by her window, staring at the city lights. She thought about reaching out again, but the fear of rejection stopped her. She wondered if Ethan had already moved on, if he even thought about her at all. And yet, something inside her refused to let go completely. Mid-story reminder. Have you ever been in a situation like this? If you're finding this story as gripping as we are, don't forget to follow our channel for more deep dives into the complexities of relationships and the human heart. You won't want to miss what happens next. Ethan's resolve began to crack when he found a small note tucked inside one of his favorite books. It was a message from Claire, written months ago, back when things were good. No matter where life takes us, remember you're one of the best parts of my story. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. He realized that, despite everything, a part of him still wanted her back. But how could he reach out now? After all this time, would she even want to hear from him? One evening, as Ethan walked through the park where they'd had their first date, he saw her. Claire was sitting on a bench, her head bowed as she fiddled with her phone. His heart raced. It felt like the universe had conspired to bring them together. But he hesitated. What if she didn't want to see him? Claire looked up, as if sensing his presence. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. Neither of them moved, caught in a web of emotions too complicated to untangle. Finally, Claire stood up, her steps tentative as she approached him. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice carrying a mix of relief and uncertainty. "Claire," he replied, his own voice barely above a whisper. They stood there, words failing them as the weight of their shared history hung in the air. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "I didn't think I'd see you again." Claire smiled faintly. "Neither did I." They walked through the park, talking about everything and nothing. It was as if the time apart had given them the perspective they needed. They didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in months, they felt like they were on the same page. And that's the thing about going no contact. Sometimes, it's the distance that reveals the true depth of a connection. But what happens next is up to you. Will you reach out, or will you let the silence speak for itself? If you're intrigued by stories like this, make sure to follow our channel. There's so much more to explore, and we'd love for you to be part of the journey.